Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. It looks like we've got a good crowd on today already. Call the meeting to order, and a slight change for this meeting and probably future meetings as long as we're virtual. Rather than going through the list of board members twice, once for roll call and once for introduction, we're just going to combine that. So, for example, when Holly reads David Ness, I'll just say something like representing municipal police from City of Des Moines. And so we can go through the list once instead of twice. So hopefully that's clear to folks. And after that, I'll have a couple of remarks to kick off the meeting. Go ahead, Holly.
Okay. Wendy Hess.
Present.
Who are you representing, Wendy?
Sorry, communication centers.
Bridget Edson. Mindy Benson.
Present. Mindy Benson from Tama County Emergency Management, representing Iowa Emergency Managers Association.
Michelle Bischoff.
Present. Michelle Bischoff with the City of Des Moines, representing Iowa Professional Fire Chiefs.
Curtis Woughton.
Present. Representing volunteer fire departments with Blakesburg Volunteer Fire Department.
David Ness.
Des Moines Police, Municipal Police.
Daniel Schaefer.
Municipal Police, Denison, Iowa.
Dan Fank.
Worth County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff's Departments.
Jason Schlutenhofer.
Wright County Sheriff, representing sheriffs.
Angela Klauser.
Present. Member at Large, Panorama Schools.
Haley Nichols.
Good morning, Present. I'm representing the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy.
Cindy Height.
Hi, I'm Present, and I'm with the Iowa Department of Public Health.
Peter Huffman.
I'm here representing the Iowa Department of Transportation.
Trace Kendig.
Present, representing the Iowa DNR Law Enforcement Bureau.
Keith Hobe.
Present. Iowa Department of Public Safety. Interim.
Patrick Updike.
Present. Patrick Updike, Iowa Department of Corrections.
Blake Jerushi.
Present. 911 Program Manager representing Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Jessica Turba.
Present.
Present. Representing Iowa Office of Chief Information Officer.
Okay, we do have a quorum.
That's great. Thank you, everybody. That's a great attendance today. Don't have formal remarks other than to ask consideration when somebody moves the agenda. We are joined this morning by Mr. Peter Zellick with the Attorney General's office, so I would suggest that the motion includes a spot for him at the front of the agenda, meaning before the meeting minutes. Will anyone make that motion?
Huffman, I'll move to modify the agenda to insert Attorney General comments before approval of meeting minutes.
Thanks.
Well, second.
I heard several. I think Woughton carried over the rest. Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The Honorable Mr. Peter Zellick will give us some reminders from a legal perspective on our board responsibilities and duties with Isicsb.
As a point of order, we moved to modify the agenda, but have not approved the modified agenda. We approved the modification.
Bischoff will move to approve the agenda as modified.
Thank you.
All right, Bishop and Fink, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you, Peter. And now from the attorney.
Thank you, everybody. This is always, I think, for everyone a little bit awkward when you're trying to do this remotely, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you a little bit. As indicated, I'm Jeff Peter-Zolek. I'm an assistant attorney general. I do a lot of different things for the state, including representing various boards and commissions. And among those, I'm your lawyer for the commission. Fortunately, you folks don't cause very many issues or problems, so I don't have to interact with you very often, which is, I think all of you would probably agree, is a good thing. Now, one of the things that I think everyone understands, and especially the new people that are coming into this, is that the Interoperability Board is brought about by Chapter 80 of the Code, and the duties and responsibilities of the board are set forth in Iowa Code Section 80.29. The Interoperability Board is a little bit different than a lot of other boards that are in state government. The board itself really doesn't have any express rulemaking authority, so you don't have a whole bunch of administrative rules that you have to constantly be working on and passing and things like that. You also aren't a licensing board, which a lot of the boards, electrical board, plumbing board, nursing board, things like that, are actually in charge of licensing different professionals. So you don't have that responsibility either. That may be one of the reasons why the Interoperability Board really doesn't have a lot of issues or problems. But what you do have is a very important mission to establish, maintain, and move forward with interoperability within the state of Iowa. And that's been a big thing for I don't know, what has it been, 13, 14, 15 years since this all got started. And things have been going really, really pretty well over that period of time. I think today, and I know you guys have a lot of other stuff to get to, and I don't want to spend a lot of time boring folks with going through a rote recitation of legal issues. I think Chris has made available to you electronically a document that sets forth an overview of legal issues for board and commission members, especially for new members. It's a good resource. It was updated pre-pandemic back in December of 2019 and is still pretty current at this time. In fact, I don't know of any things that need to be changed. So it's a good resource, and hopefully folks have had an opportunity to at least have that. Related to that, some of the issues that we deal with and you folks deal with on a regular basis, and I'll start with potentially with some issues on open meetings. I'm not going to really make a lot of comments on that, although up to this point and hopefully ongoing, there aren't going to be any problems with open meetings issues. We had at the very beginning of this meeting an opportunity and a call for a modification of the agenda so that it would be noted that I was making these comments. Now the commission or the board's not going to be taking any action on my comments, so that was an appropriate opportunity to amend the agenda to do that. One of the things that we suggest, if you were going to modify the agenda to add something that you were going to take board action on, that could potentially be an issue and a problem, and be something you would probably want to consult with your legal counsel before you would be doing that. So, but up to this point, I know I've worked with people in the past on before we entered into the pandemic with getting electronic meetings set up, things of that nature. There hasn't been any issues with that. There's also not been any issues on open records and requests for open records and things like that. The one issue that I just want to spend a little bit of time on are the potential for you board members for conflicts of interest. Now, all of you on the board come from a lot of different walks of life. You have municipal police departments, you have sheriff's offices, fire departments, communication centers, things of those like that, and from different localities throughout the state. And it has happened in the past and is likely to happen in the future that everybody is competing for limited resources and limited dollars to some extent for these interoperability actions that you folks are taking. So it's certainly a situations arise where different localities could be competing for those resources. And it is important that if there's any potential for a conflict of interest, when you're sitting on the board, you're representing the board and you're conducting board action, and you have a fiduciary duty to the board and its mission, as opposed to the duties that you might have for your employer that would typically, so there can be the possibility of a conflict of interest if you have an area, maybe a situation where some new equipment and a rollout of a new program or process might be a good thing for Worth County, but it would also be a good thing for other areas of the state, and other people are competing for that resource. And in situations like that, you need to be careful about whether you're actually participating in the board voting on those types of things. And again, in the past, we really haven't had any issues with that. So I think that for the most part, that's something people are generally aware of. Again, any time that you have a question about a potential conflict of interest, whether that's something that as a board member you should participate in, not participate in, just certainly feel free to contact me or go through Chris to contact me, and we can work through that pretty quickly. The other issue, and I guess probably the final issue, unless there's any questions I want to talk to you a little bit about, would be with respect to gifts and gift laws and things of that nature. You folks are, and I think even in your professional capacities outside of the board, are also subject to the gift laws and things like that related to that. In your role as a board member, pretty much anybody that you're going to come into contact with, and many of the people that are sitting and participating in the meeting today and observing the meeting today, are going to be what are restricted donors, restricted vendors under the code. So you're not able to accept gifts, lunches, trips to Florida, things of that nature from a lot of the people who are active participants in work with us on our interoperable communications issues. So just to be cognizant of that. Again, if you have a question, a lot of times it'll come up where you have an opportunity to maybe go speak at a seminar or something like that, and whether you can do that, whether you can participate in that, how expenses are covered, things like that. Again, if those types of issues come up, please feel free to contact legal counsel so we can work through that. Gifts, if you're at a meeting or some sort of a, I guess with the meeting where there's maybe handing out certain trinkets or gifts or things like that, as long as it's something that's available to everyone, that's probably okay. If it's something that's specific to board members and not others in the public that might be attending, that's a problem. So that's another issue to be aware of. But overall, for board members and board members in particular on the Interoperable Communications Board, the most significant thing to be aware of is to be aware of the fact that you are representing the board. You have a duty to the board when you're conducting board business, and that you avoid any conflicts of interest, and quite frankly, any appearances of a conflict of interest if it gets to a point where it could just not look all that well. So those are really just very basic comments that we have, and I just wanted to take the opportunity, especially for some of the new board members, to at least allow you folks to put a name with a face and at least understand and be aware of who your legal counsel is. We, myself, and others in our office are more than happy to help out any way we can with you folks, and we'll welcome the opportunity to help you as needed. Now, I think that's really going to be the extent of my comments. I don't want to bore you folks with going through page by page of the documents that you've been provided, but just wanted to give you a quick overview, and more importantly, just to kind of quickly introduce myself, which I think I've done. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. Otherwise, I will let you folks continue with your important business of the day.
Well, thank you for sharing your comments and the document. Chris, you had lined this up. I appreciate it. Do you have any parting comments?
No, just sorry for the technical issues in getting Mr. Peter Zellick's document up. I managed to get it up during his presentation, and the document is in your inboxes.
Excellent. Thank you again, Counselor, for joining us and sharing your experience and wisdom as we move forward.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for meeting minutes from January 14th.
I'll make a motion.
And who did we have there?
Schaefer.
Thank you, Dan. And a second?
Second from Huffman.
All right. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. SWIC report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board. Just some updates for you this morning. We're continuing to work on derecho response with respect to the STR deployments. I have some good news in that the STR deployment for Atkins, Iowa, where they were making use of our East STR, is essentially complete, and we are preparing for the demobilization process. So we're going to draw that one to a conclusion here, hopefully pretty soon. Continue to coordinate and work with the Clinton agencies on use of the West STR and the potential for a new location for that. The long and short of it is we're probably gonna have to move it to a different location by Memorial Day. So I've been coordinating with Clinton and other stakeholders on getting that move done. Also, there's continued work with finance for billing and reimbursement. We have received some bills for work so far. Those are in the process of being paid if they have not yet already been paid and submitted for reimbursement. Additional bills for the redundant path and generator service are expected over the next couple of months. So I will be updating the board as those bills come in, as they are paid, and as they are submitted for reimbursement. Also had quite a few phone calls and emails and even a meeting or so with agencies that are looking at joining Isicsb. One thing I'll mention to the board this month is that our applications up for approval are relatively light. That's not uncommon for the first meeting or two in the new year, but we have several more that are coming in the next few months that will gain a lot of new agencies access to the system for the first time, which is exciting. We're also continuing to coordinate here for local agency Isicsb training. We're actively planning a few of them, and we delivered several last month. And again, I will also say if any of your agencies want any type of training or clarification on Isicsb policies or standards or processes, please get in touch with me. In the case of training, there's no cost, and in many instances, there can be some tailorment to the individual agency that needs the training. A quick update on status board. We did have some maintenance on Monday to update some DPS servers. Some of you may have noticed a service interruption during that, but that interruption should have been very brief. Notice was sent out to agencies that maintenance may be occurring. We're also continuing work with Minnesota on updates to the program to add some new features. There's some that I'm really excited about, and once we get them finessed and worked out, I will demonstrate those to the board here as well. With respect to those updates, we're kind of working on the paperwork stage, so we are working with Minnesota agencies on an acceptable agreement. And once we have that in place, we'll, of course, cycle it through the processes here to make sure everything is agreeable. I also plan on reaching out to other states on their interest in the use of status board as well in coordination with Minnesota. There's some exciting things that may come from that as well with interstate coordination that will benefit everybody in the long run. So again, if you have not yet signed up for access to status board, please do. We're onboarding agencies fairly routinely through either creating user accounts for them or offering training. The training on that takes about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on questions, and we're also going to rope that into the next round of Isicsb regional training. Quick update on interstate interoperability. Kind of continuing on with the work with Minnesota and that theme. There was a pre-meeting last week between Minnesota State Patrol and Iowa State Patrol that I'm able to sit in on. We're going to be looking at working on a few things with them and hopefully expanding that interoperable concept between our states here over the next several months. And then finally, I've been assisting the training committee with the FOG, EFOG, and TICP development. That's a TA request to CISA. We've received some paperwork regarding an MOA and other types of letters of authorization. I've been coordinating with legal staff on the DPS and DOT side to make sure things look agreeable so that we can make that work commence. And so far that is progressing nicely. So with that, Mr. Chair, that is my report. I will pause for any questions.
Chris, a lot of acronyms at the end. Hit briefly CISA, FOG, IFOG.
Yes, CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We coordinate with a branch of them with respect to these deliveries to help us out with projects like the FOG, EFOG, and TICP. Essentially, what we would be getting would be a field operations guide that is custom tailored to Iowa. So field operations guide is FOG. An EFOG is an electronic version of that same operations guide, and that would be available ideally on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store for an application to download. And then the TICP would be the Tactical Interoperable Communications Plan. That TICP kind of goes into the development of the FOG and EFOG, and that would basically be sort of a listing of resources and other pertinent items that are available at the state and possibly regional level for interoperable use if there's ever a joint event between multiple agencies, especially those that may be coming in from out of a home area or from further away.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Any questions for the SWIC report? All right, we'll move on to Mr. Darushi with the 911 Council report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We covered a lot of ground in the 911 Council meeting today. That meeting is already posted. It's only about 35 minutes long. So there was a lot of discussion on some more legal or perhaps political items legislatively and a court ruling regarding 28E arrangements. So not to go in depth here, I just encourage you to take a look at that recording of the 911 Council meeting. The one thing I do want to bring up, kind of an exciting pilot project we are doing with the Metro 911 PSAPs, and that is a pilot program with T-Mobile on location-based call routing. So rather than using cell sector towers, using the location of the hand device for routing instead. So we'll eventually be taking that statewide. T-Mobile is the first carrier to approach us and let us know they are ready for that step. So of course, as other carriers become ready for that as well, we will continue to roll that out. But really the bottom line there is just more precise routing, routing based on the location of the actual caller rather than which cell sector the call hits first. So with any questions, I will take those now.
Thank you, sir. On to the UGC. Chair Schlutenhofer, are you on the phone?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The 21st of January, the user group met. They approved Medic Ems for a level 2. Motorola had no issues on the analysts. Their primary use will be the Eastern Iowa area for EMS. Like I say, we made the motion and approved to move it on to the Isicsb board, which is in the new business. The other discussion we had was radio programming certification form. It was a pretty lengthy discussion on where those forms would go. It's a situation where it allows the user to go back to the vendor to get a certification on the programming of the radios. Chris, do you have anything more on that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, just a little bit, Sheriff. That was a pretty good summary. The one thing that was discussed, as he alluded to, was giving the agencies that have signed up for Isicsb access some sort of document that they can use to present that they can show with some level of confidence that their radios are programmed accordingly and appropriately with the interoperable talk groups throughout the state and other resources that may appear on documents like our ICS 17A. This is a document that their vendor would fill out for them or their programmer, and it would be a part of the follow-up process with access. The initial thoughts with that document would be is that it would be flexible with an agency's project or timeline for programming. As an example, we have some agencies that sign up for Isicsb Access really early on in a project before they buy any equipment. And then we have some that buy the equipment and start their projects and then sign up for access near the conclusion of that. So that certification form has a level of flexibility built into it as well to accommodate local needs and local timelines. And then that would be distributed appropriately, however that looks during subsequent UGC meetings. Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Chris. Any questions for the UGC? Hearing none, back to Chris with Finance Committee.
Yes, I shouldn't have muted my line. So our financial reports for the month of January, I'll bring up some of the reports and I'll cycle through them for everybody to see. Monthly expenditures for the Interoperable and Broadband Communications Fund were $5,482.04. The ending balance for that fund is $219,712.68. Monthly expenditures for SLIGP 2.0 for the month of January were $9,868.87. And of those expenditures, $7,895.10 were federal. The remaining balance for SLIGP 2.0 is $242,739.98. That's the financial status of the board. We are also working on scheduling a SLIGP 2.0 meeting with NTIA to discuss the status and closeout of that grant. That's the financial report for the board today. Are there any questions? All right.
Hearing none, we'll move on to governance. Chair Huffman.
Okay, the governance committee met this month and we talked about the post Isicsb standards 1.5.2, the use of statewide and or regional interoperable talk groups for air post ops. And we also talked about the Isicsb standard 4.2.0 agency maintenance edits. Neither of those seem to pose an issue, and the governance committee recommended they be moved forward to the board for approval during this meeting. Also, after the operations committee met, which was after the governance committee board meeting, they wanted to see standard moved to public comment, and the governance committee looked over that asynchronously by email, and that was the air-to-ground policy draft that will be proposed to move to public comment during this meeting. And that was also, there were no objections to moving that forward either. And that is the governance committee business.
Thank you, Peter. Move on to Operations Committee. Chair Bischoff.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Operations Committee has met twice since our last board meeting, and in the course of those meetings, reviewed the policy, or excuse me, the standards that are listed for us to approve that Chair Huffman just mentioned. So those were reviewed and comments made, as well as the air-to-ground policy that Chair Huffman mentioned as well. Both of those were reviewed and commented upon and are before us for some level of action later in the meeting. Are there any questions for operations? Thank you.
Thank you. Outreach, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing with outreach, we continue to work on sending out the monthly report, or the newsletter, I should say, every month, and ensuring that the content is accurate and appropriate and timely. And along that mention of timely release, the one thing that we're looking at doing is modifying when that newsletter is released. There's ample opportunity to time the release of that newsletter so that it comes right after the board meeting. So that could do, in theory, a couple of things for us. It could ensure that not only is the information in that newsletter as fresh as it could possibly be, but for those that may miss a meeting, it gives them one opportunity to see what the board action was done before they may have a chance to watch the video on YouTube or read the minutes from the previous month. So we are looking at moving the release of that newsletter to a week after the board meeting so that the content in it is as fresh as it can be. And we will be releasing the February report here within the next few days as well. So previously they were released in the first or second week of the month, but we may just be pushing that back a week or so to ensure that the content's a little bit fresher going forward. That's the update for the Outreach Committee. I'll go ahead and take any questions.
That would be a great change. Thank you. On to the Training Committee, as Vice Chair brought us on.
Hi, this is Haley with the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, ready to give the notes.
Super, thank you.
Okay, we met on the 27th of January and talked about the survey that is out to see if the regional training sessions could be, the COMEL training could be virtual because of what's going on, and that survey is going to be available until the end of February. We talked about the creation of that field operations guide and a electronic version of that. The state-sponsored COMT with the Iowa National Guard is expected to happen during the week of April 5th. And then we discussed working on the plain language standard module 1.3.0, and Sherry Barker and myself have offered to assist with creating a voiceover and working on that training module. We also talked about an option to move these trainings online, and there's some different softwares that would allow that, so we could track students and even create certificates for them. It'll be necessary to work on modules for pursuits and air ambulance landing zones soon. And that's really all I have, if there's any questions.
Thank you for the report. On to the Technology Committee with Chair Updike.
Thank you. The Technology Committee met on January 28th and February 2nd. We did have some, we dealt with the mobile broadband LTE deployable policy that's coming up in agenda item 17. So I'll get into that when that time comes. In these meetings, one of the things that we did decide upon was to go ahead and update the ICS 217A to reflect B-Law 31 having the CTCSS tone of 156.7 removed from that document. So I went ahead and updated that document and sent it forward to be put onto the Isicsb website. And as a result of that, we started looking at the Isicsb MC12B policy that oversees the ICS 217A. In its current form, it has a lot of holes in it. And so we spent some time looking at that and coming up with a new version of it, which I sent out to everybody, so you should have that in your email. You'll see a draft version of that. It's been added to considerably. And so what we're doing is we're going to push that to governance and operations and have them take a look at that. The goal is to bring it to the board next month and have it put out for at least a 30-day comment period. So we think it's a good thing to do this because it's got about 7 years of age on it and it needed to be reviewed. So One of the other things that we did look at was the potential for adding more air-to-ground channels to the ICS 217A. And also, we did talk about the 800 RPC looking into the 800 meg scene of action channels. Rob Dennett's done some research on this. We're looking into the potential of 11 800 megahertz frequency pairs for the scene of action plan, but we won't know much more until after the April RPC meeting. So you'll be hearing more and more of this as we move forward. So be watching for that. So that's it for this month's report. If you have any questions, let me know.
Great work. Thank you, Patrick. FirstNet Broadband Committee, Chair Bischoff.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the FirstNet Broadband Committee met once since our last board meeting, and it was a standard business meeting. We just provided normal updates and received updates from AT&T. FirstNet Authority, Kevin Nida, was unable to attend and unable to give us the briefing on Nashville. We will receive that next month. So it's just a pretty standard meeting. Any questions for the FirstNet Broadband Committee?
All right, thank you. We have an opportunity on the agenda for information sharing amongst board members. If anyone has anything. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, Motorola Project Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Steve Heil from Motorola. I really don't have anything to report this month unless somebody has any questions for me.
All right, thanks for joining us, though. Just in case, next up, Tom Lampe, the System Administrator report.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so as of today, the total radios on the system is 21,863, and that's the number of radio IDs that are active. That if you turn your radio on, that you could use the system. That's up about 209 radios from last month. There are 2,386, so 2,386 talk groups currently on the system. Our winter weather is causing some of our generators to fail on the startup. They're not cranking long enough, and get a big motor like that when it gets real cold, that creates an alarm because it's supposed to start in a certain amount of time. So we've been dealing with those, as well as Lieutenant Hove's staff dealing with the generator piece. They do start, but they have to crank a little bit longer, and there's 92 of those. Some of them all don't start. Every Monday, the system starts them all, and there's 92 of them. So that kind of we got to get an email full of alarms when this gets really cold like that. We're still asking for and trying to get some microwave reports for Motorola for the last year on the system. I'll need to review those closely because I want to make sure that they were all up to specs we asked for and according to what we asked for in the contract. We still have not signed the final acceptance. That'll occur here, I would anticipate, probably in the next couple of weeks. Should be done by we have some training for system admin refresher next week. I was told by Motorola that they anticipate getting the final acceptance probably before the training or during the training, or maybe even after. We have some snow removal issues, processes we're dealing with. We got a lot of sites to work with. Folks come up with some solutions, trying to keep some of our state sites clean by doing it ourselves. There's no real easy solution to this. But we're working towards to keep our sites accessible for troubleshooting. We get this amount of snow, they block the drives, and we can't get to the site. We're still working on fine-tuning how alarms come into the NOC and how they're processed. We get a lot of alarms each day. Some are important than others, more important than others. We have to decipher those. Sometimes it's complex, especially when you have to decide if it's an alarm that affects the users radios on the street. We average about 3,800 radios actively using the network each day. In fact, I just looked at the screen and there's 3,800 and some radios right now using the system as we speak. When we roll into the spring and summer, Motorola will be conducting the required maintenance on all the sites. It's going to be kind of a yearly thing. They do these in phases. Trying to keep pace with them sometimes is going to be challenging. From the NOC perspective, and good communication between the Motorola and the system admin NOC is essential. Once again, it may affect the users on what they're doing currently with the site when they do maintenance. Working on getting the phone number established for the NOC. We're having some phone issues with the number we had, so we have to work through that to make sure we have a good line. Once we do have final, and then we'll publish that number to the PSAPs for distro for troubleshooting if you need to call the NOC. Inside the NOC, we're pushing to get us some more information. We're pushing Motorola to get us some more information so we can display more information on the screen for daily monitoring. That's just the microwave shots, LP tank warnings, site trunking. There's a ton of things we can see, but we only want to see some of the critical items that affect the users. The goal here is to get information to the subsystem users and of potential outages, whether it's planned or it's an emergency outage. The more awareness we can create, the better we can prepare for these types of things that occur when you move to a complex network like Isicsb is with this amount of radios. We still meet every Tuesday with Motorola regarding warranty. That has a lot of it right now has been with tower light problems, call processes, how we communicate with each other, so the user still has a good experience on the system. We've met with other states and went over the importance of good customer service that the state provides when it comes to the system. Predominantly it was clear that you have to have a confidence level, and I think we do have that of the staff and a good understanding. So keep our users happy and operational on a day-to-day. Not that we're mechanics or techs, but we can certainly get you information that may affect your radio. So that's all I have for this month.
A lot of information. Thank you, Tom. All right. Do we have an AT&T FirstNet rep on today?
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Bart Blank, FirstNet consultant for Eastern Iowa here. I do not have any network updates for the last month of January for you today, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask them or answer them.
Thanks for joining us. Anything from the FirstNet Authority? Did Kevin happen to be on? All right, we'll move on to CISA ECD update from Jim Lundstedt.
Good morning, Chair Ness. Is the audio okay here?
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Just two quick updates. We are continuing to work with the SWIC on completing technical assistance and scheduling activities as was reported in Chris's report. I would add that CISA is continuing to make an effort to make entities aware of the increasing threat of ransomware. We've actually started a webinar series, the first of which will be held this afternoon on the topic. Both public and critical infrastructure, private entity sectors are increasingly falling victim to ransomware. It's so prevalent in the cybersphere right now that we actually see entities offering ransomware as a service where you can purchase activities that will deny service or cause ransomware to be inserted on a system from a commercial entity. Kind of an unfortunate thing in today's society that almost everything in IT is available as a service. We were pretty surprised, I think, to see ransomware join that trend. The website CISA.gov has a great deal of information on ideas and concepts to help reduce the threat of ransomware. I'll short summarize that in two steps. One is know that you have a true offline backup and deploy aggressive anti-threat phishing training for your end users, your employees. That will summarize our brief for today, sir. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thanks a lot. Swick Myers, anything for standards working group?
Yeah, really quickly, Mr. Chair. We met last month and sent a couple of standards to governance as an end product, and have been coordinating very closely with operations on a few more. A couple of things that are being worked on will be a patch standard, and that's not necessarily going to be a if you have this, then do this. I think the vision for that standard that would be a completely new and organic standard would be to offer guidance to personnel at PSAPs on how things work, how they can work, and how they could fit that into their operations. So that standard is in its very early development. As that comes forward, we will be shopping that out to the other committees to get their feedback on it as well, because that will be a fairly interesting document to work on. We're also coordinating with operations on a potential update to Standard 1.4.0, which is our pursuit standard. That'll offer some additional insights on pursuits, announcements, and things of the sort. That's the update for standards for the month. I'll go ahead and take any questions.
Thank you for the report. Under old business, Michelle, are there any updates on sub-regional talk groups?
Yes, there are, Chair. I received a report this morning on the use of those talk groups. So we're talking SR1, Call 111, and then the 8 TACs that were part of that sub-regional talk group offering. And all of the talk groups have been used. The call time is not super significant. Now, this was from the period of November 1 through January 31st. So for that time, not all agencies were on it, but it is being used by multiple agencies as intended, all in the metro area, and the towers being impacted, or sites being impacted, also seem appropriate. It's a very low number of sites, which was the intention. I guess I'm seeking a little bit of direction from the board as to how we want to proceed with this pilot. If we want to work through the summer special event season with the outlook that this season might be more normal than previous, but maybe not 100% normal, or if we want to proceed to memorialize this pilot program based on the information that we have.
I've got a couple comments, but I'd like others to weigh in if they have thoughts one direction or another. Michelle, I believe at least on the law side, we're going to do a fair amount of use on the these talk groups on the upcoming state tournaments for multi-agency work at wrestling tournament and the basketball tournaments. I think after March, we should have a sufficient sample size and a picture on how it performed that would allow it, in my hope, to be finalized so that we can put that into TICPs and other plans that are being assembled for summer special events, state fair, county fairs, etc. One person's opinion, but I'd certainly be open to the thoughts of others. And if you don't have the thoughts today, but you want to get back to Michelle before the next meeting, that would be outstanding.
Yep, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Swick Myers, I keep forgetting to suggest that we pull this off the agenda since it seems like it's been nearly complete for a long time. But any updates on control stations?
Yeah, really quickly, we are still doing one-on-one sessions with agencies that would need training on the use of interoperable talk groups. There are still some out there that have not gotten any training yet that we're working on facilitating those sessions with them. And the results from those sessions are positive. As far as the bookwork goes, we're just working on getting everything lined up for closeout. And also, the Iowa School of Deaf got a control station from us as a part of that. If you remember, the program was expanded to include region schools so that the University of Iowa Public Safety and Iowa State Public Safety could get a consulate or control station as well. The region schools also includes Iowa School for the Deaf, so we got them a control station as well. We're working on getting them an antenna package that's going to be workable for them since they have a different building structure and different building needs. It's not expected to cost a whole lot of extra money, but we are still working on getting those antenna components lined up for them. So there may still be some pertinent updates to include for this for the next couple of months, but we are getting very close to being completely done with this, Mr. Chair.
Great, that was a tremendous initiative. Look forward to its completion. All right, I'm not sure we have air to ground old business since it's under new business as well. Is there anything to cover under the old business air to ground policy? Hearing none, go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, I was muted. I was talking, but no one could hear me. I think there is action on the air to ground policy. I don't see it under new business unless I'm looking at the agenda that Chris is publishing. This policy is what we are wanting to do with this policy is have it go out for public comment. It has been out for public comment in the past. We brought that back, digested that, made edits, made further edits, and it needs to go back out for public comment. That's why it's under old business, and that it's been there once before, we've been here once before. So I would make a motion that we take the air to ground policy out for public comment for 30 days.
Is there a second for the motion to seek public comment on the air to ground policy?
Updike, second.
All right, we've got a second by Updike. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? All right, thanks for the clarification, Michelle, and for moving that item. Old business D, LTE deployable policy.
Okay. During one of the technology calls, we did have a representative from CTIA online, and Chris, you can step in anytime you want, but they came back and seemed to be happy with the product that was given to them as far as the LTE deployable policy. The only thing we did was we went through it and kind of changed some of just the commas and placement of words. Didn't change any of the intent. So we think it's a good product. Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So we did have some representation from CTIA on the last call. Once again, for those of you that are unfamiliar with CTIA, they are an industry group that represents the carriers and in many cases some device manufacturers as well. So we were able to get some significant industry input as well as input from other partners such as FirstNet on this policy as it's gone through various stages. We have been sending CTIA various iterations of this policy as it's gone through the editing process. As of today, we don't have anything to suggest that it's not ready to go out for public comment again. And again, CTIA and their membership have expressed satisfaction with the progress that has been made on this document over the past several months.
So just to clarify, Patrick or Chris, this is a policy that we sought comment previously, sought official public comment. We received some. We took that into consideration. We've worked with industry, and now we're prepared to put it out for comment again. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So this is Updike. I will make a motion to have this LTE deployable policy put out for public comment for 60 days.
Is there a second?
Hank will second.
Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Isicsb user approval. Chair Schlutenhofer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're looking for approval on Medic Ems, which is a level 2, roughly 110 radios. Motorola had no load issues with it. They're looking at one talk group, not encrypted, and the primary use is going to be for Eastern Iowa. I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
Chair, I think you can make that motion if you'd like, and then I'd entertain a second.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Bischoff will second.
And Curtis, we heard you for next time. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? All right, on to the Isicsb standard approval. Governance Chair Huffman.
Okay, first we have the Air Ambulance Gene Flight Landing Zone Coordination, which has been through mostly through the Operations Committee. And they developed through several different agencies. The Governance Committee has seen it. There's no issue with moving it forward for board vote. Michelle, I don't know if you want to talk about more about the details of where this came about before we vote or not.
Sure. Where this came about from is that the FCC does in the NIFOG offer these frequencies for air to ground as well as landing zone. And in order for us to legally use those channels, we need to have a policy adopting that, and then this is the support document to that policy for a standard of use. So this just goes into detail about how those air to ground and landing zone channels can be used, and gives guidance to agencies to operationalize into their anytime that they're using an air ambulance or aircraft on their scene.
Mr. Chair, this is Chris.
Yes.
If I may offer to the group too, given that this standards update, and Chair Bischoff and Chair Huffman, please let me know if you think this may be a good course of action as well. Since we're going to send out the air-to-ground policy out for public comment, since these documents are kind of married to each other, it may be wise to send this out for public comment with the air-to-ground policy to ensure that we don't necessarily pass a standard and adjoining procedures before we have the policy adopting the air-to-ground channels as well. So it may be beneficial to send these two out in tandem together, and then that way feedback on one can be incorporated into the other, assuming we get it.
I would concur with Swickmeyer's comments. I think that is the best course of action.
Is there any urgency consideration that would deter us from waiting 60 days to consider this at the board level? I'm not suggesting there is. I just want to make sure that there isn't.
There is some urgency behind it in that air ops happen daily within the state, and there has been some use of channels that are less desirable by agencies, and it's really from lack of there being a policy on how those talk groups should be utilized for air operations. Much of the coordination is happening at the air ambulance dispatch, so whomever Air Methods or whomever the provider is working through that, so it's a bit challenging for them. It would be advantageous to have it sooner rather than later, but there's also it has to make sense to those that are reading and reviewing, so it's kind of a delicate balance there. And the motion on the policy for the air to ground was for a 30-day review, not 60, just for clarification.
Yes, thank you for that. It was the LTE that was the longer one, so.
Correct, yep.
All right, so I will entertain a motion on the air to ground to include that with the LTE policy rather than in seeking public comment for 30 days at this point.
I'd make that motion, Sheriff Slutenhofer.
Thank you, Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Dan, thank you. And Patrick, yes.
Yeah, your wording was off. You're trying to take the LTE deployable policy and mesh it with this. I think what you meant to say was the standard 1.5.2 to go out for 30-day public comment.
That is definitely what I intended. Yeah, my comment referencing the LTE was that was the one for 60 days, and it was actually the air-to-ground policy that was for 30 days, as Michelle had pointed out. So, correct, I believe that we're clear. Standard 1.5.2 would be going with the air-to-ground policy, seeking public comment for 30 days. Is that consistent with what people intended for their motion and second?
It was.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you both, and thank you, Patrick, for clarifying. And Michelle, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, on to the next standard, 4.2.0, agency maintenance.
Okay, this is the standard that gives guidance in terms of maintaining radios and subsystems to ensure that the system has consistent and up-to-date software and firmware and radio programming for the like required interoperable channels and things like that, and also to ensure we continue keeping up to date with rules such as FAA and FCC rules. Chris, was there anything else you wanted to add to the agency maintenance, or Michelle?
I can add something, Peter, really quickly. Previously, this maintenance standard was focused solely on infrastructure or other items that are directly connected to the system. Through feedback from some users and other agencies, it was also mentioned that maintenance can also pertain to end user subscriber radios. And given that, the other thing that was mentioned in some previous discussions with stakeholders and within other committees is that there are some instances that it would make sense to have things done to subscriber radios when they're being maintained. So what this standard does is it adds that concept of terminal user radio equipment to agency maintenance. It makes a couple of declarations stating that agency maintenance for terminal subscriber radios are up to the agency that owns them. And it also says that things like programming and maintenance may not be mutually exclusive, but there are some benefits to trying to lump updated programming into the radios when they undergo maintenance because they're already in the hands of a technician at that point. So that's what I would add, Chair Huffman. Would Chair Bischoff have anything to add as well?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you both.
So the governance committee found no issue with the changes proposed and moves it forward to the board for voting.
All right, I'll entertain a second for that motion.
Vote will second.
Thank you, Curtis. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move to the last agenda item, public comment. Appreciate all the board members we had on today, and also had quite a few in the public comment category. Thank you for your continued interest. Last call for public comment. All right, we'll consider the meeting adjourned at 11:37. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.